Given the opportunity, I will always talk about the taxi trade, and in some respects, what is happening to us is reflected in society, especially economically. But it is true to say that the taxi trade is increasingly unique in that it operates within a very strict regulatory framework, and regulated frameworks are legal or policy mechanisms that exist to ensure standards-based practices. And there are valid, rational reasons why the taxi trade should be regulated, not least safety. And if you were put in charge of establishing a modern taxi service today, then you would want your driver to have a knowledgeable understanding of the town or city he or she was operating in. You would certainly want your vehicle to be exacting in its design to account for individual liberty, in particular those with mobility concerns. And that's quite a broad spectrum because you need to consider the needs of the elderly, the frail, the wheelchair dependent, those with sensory conditions, and even those with temporary disabilities such as a broken ankle. The rule of compellability should apply to be certain of reliability, and as a primarily municipal service, you want fares to be regulated in some way to prevent rapacious price gouging and to ensure viability, and viability is a key point here. Of course, all of this comes with a significant caveat, but all of which is still applicable to the licensed taxi trade today. The problem, however, is that it comes at a cost and with added responsibilities. And that is why regulated industries, such as the taxi trade, aren't designed to compete within a free market system. Now, it was always easier for those on the peripheral to favour Uber over London's black cabs, especially given the politicians' penchant for protecting big business. But what has happened to the taxi trade has nothing to do with competing within a free market. And it was only down to the service that we provided that we were able to ride the turbulent waves, because the fact is the corporate market relied on growth that depended entirely on predatory subsidies. Certainly, if you have to subsidize a business with something like $30 billion, it cannot in any way, shape or form be considered a competitor in a free market system. So, what is the point I'm trying to make? Well, many of the factors that now threaten our trade originate from the rapid pace of industrial development, coupled with the proliferation of emerging technology and a seemingly adamance by TfL not to support the regulatory framework, which has predictably led to the exponential growth of private hire at the expense of the taxi trade. Now, if we keep all of that in mind, and with the advent of Web3 and decentralization on the horizon, there will inevitably be further challenges coming down the line, probably sooner than what we expect. And no doubt the future of urban transportation as a whole will rely more heavily on technologies that could exacerbate asymmetries within our industry. So my question here is, what do we as a trade do about it? A proper regulatory response would address such concerns, wouldn't it? But considering TfL even now is failing to impose a Supreme Court's decision on Uber because for some reason they don't see themselves as a regulator that enforces the law, then they can hardly be relied upon to apply the regulations to ensure fairness at some point in the future. It also demonstrates how technology can be used to develop market strategies that damage competition and set its own parameters without being considered to violate competition law. I'm not particularly good at looking around the corner, but neither is the trade. And conveniently for TfL, the system that has been in place since the beginning of time to represent the trade and effectively manage many of the issues we are now facing is done by using yesterday's tools and by the same people. And as a consequence to that, the necessary action is either not taken or is taken too late, whilst the problems the industry faces continue to grow and mutate. Even if we put aside the problems that could be caused by emerging tech, there are pressing issues that we need to face imminently. And these range from the rapid depletion of driver numbers and the unsustainable escalating cost of the vehicle. And that's before we even consider wider ideological impacts that are relatively out of our control. Now, I get that it's all very well that I continue to point fingers. But if those I am pointing fingers at are unable to see what is smacking us between the eyes and have no idea how to navigate our way out of it, then how can we rely on those same people to be prescient and recognise on our behalf the issues that are going to impact on us at some point in the future? The simple fact of the matter is this: if we are not looking ahead, the corporates, the politicians who have a penchant for big business, remember, and our detractors, especially those detractors who have agendas that are funded by taxpayers, which is a whole new scandal in itself, will be looking ahead on our behalf. And none of them, I absolutely guarantee you, none of them will have our best interest at heart. Therefore, it is essential for us to explore new ways of solutionizing. Collaboration within the industry is key to building resilience and preparing for the challenges that lie ahead. It is time to shift our focus towards proactive problem solving and working together effectively to secure a healthy future for this great trade. Surely nobody could be against that.